Welcome to another episode of Well-Adjusted Mama. This is a podcast dedicated to educating and empowering women from preconception, pregnancy, birth, and through early motherhood on wellness lifestyle. I'm your host, Dr. Laura Brayton, and I'm a maternity pediatric chiropractor as well as mother who has hand-selected experts in natural holistic healthcare specialties to shine light on options and choices during this exciting phase of a woman's life. And this episode is sponsored by Informed Pregnancy Plus, which is a fantastic streaming platform for pregnancy and parenting. You can experience it for free at informedpregnancy.tv. Today's episode, I talk about the topic of how to embrace the challenges of motherhood with authenticity with my special guest, Ciara Burton. Ciara Burton is a renowned personal life coach and trainer with over a decade of experience. Known as the Life Coach for Moms, Ciara's work has positively impacted the lives of over 800 people. She specializes in helping working women, especially mothers, overcome feelings of overwhelm, anxiety, and disconnection from their inner selves. Ciara's 4-step approach helps women love their bodies into alignment, train their minds, feed their souls, and become sovereign women. Recently, Ciara and her family made a life-changing move from California to Colorado to live in alignment with her values of faith, family, health, travel, and nature. Her course, Becoming Her, empowers moms to rediscover happiness within themselves and lead lives guided by their core values. Graduates of her program become confident leaders in their homes, embracing a vision of possibility and leaving behind the victim mindset through inner directed living and soul work. And you can find out more at her website, ciaraburton.com. Hi, Ciara. Welcome to the show. I'm very excited to have you on today.
Hi, Laura. Thank you for having me.
So I'm really excited for you to share with the audience about the work that you do as a coach, specifically working with working mothers and how to support women in owning their sovereign self and all the challenges and beautiful things that come with being a mom.
Totally. I'm excited to share.
So let's start off with your personal story about how you kind of got into being a coach, working with working moms and women in general.
Yeah, thank you for asking. So I have been working as a coach since 2009, before health coaching was even actually a term in the industry. And being an early adopter in that field, I was able to really watch it grow and be a part of it. And having worked with many clients from all over the world, I thought, due to my experience in being a coach, that I would be immune to some of the, immense challenges that come with birth and motherhood. And that's sort of, the cosmic joke, because I feel like because I had that perspective without really knowing it, motherhood became, and my home birth was one of the most challenging experiences I've ever walked through. So it was interesting to be supporting others, in mind management, which is what I teach, mind management, how to get out of the past, which is where depression lives, and how to get out of the future, which is where anxiety lives. So to be an expert in mind management and to be coaching and training within companies and organizations, but then behind the scenes, to be in that dark night of the soul experience. I mean, truly. And actually, I was like, in child's pose, palms up to the sky, just in despair, feeling helpless and lost, as my baby cried in the room with me, because he was a colicky baby. And he came through after a home birth and having rapid breathing. So we ended up with 10 days in the NICU. So after a long, tiresome birth, ending in the NICU for 10 days was pretty traumatic for me. So I was processing all of that and was trying to make sense of it all, because I could have never imagined, being in that place of hopelessness and helplessness at that time. So how I came to do what I do now is I really had to unwind that. And what was interesting is you can't mindset your way out of matters of the soul. And so that's where I've become an expert coach now, is in matters of the soul. So yes, all the health stuff is important, honoring and taking care of our body and nourishing it to optimal health is key. That's really step one. And mind management, step two, around getting out of the past and getting out of the future and learning how to be here now in the moment to create with your creator. But step three was really the missing piece of my journey, which is the feed your soul, get connected to really the eternal self that lives within. I had to basically reconnect to a pure relationship with God, with source, with the universe. And in that process, I became healed. It took some time because there was a lot of resentment there for me that had built up, and because of my suffering. And when I walked through this journey a few years into motherhood, I was able to find peace, and I was able to find, a grounded presence in the midst of really a lot of chaos that comes with the unpredictability of motherhood. And the final step number 4, and this is the way that I teach it, is becoming a sovereign woman. And what that really means is standing on a firm foundation of your values and of the key virtues you're called to grow within yourself, and to live from that place of confidence and empowerment, making decisions for your family on behalf of what is best for all concerned. And one of the best advice someone gave me at this time, it was an older woman, and she looked at me in the eyes and she said, "Ciara, you are called to take center stage, and there are only 4 people on it. You, your husband, and your 2 children. Nothing else matters." And I really saw that. I saw me and my husband and my 2 children on this strong foundation. And I saw the people who were in the rows, of the audience, because we were using the stage analogy. And I looked in the front row and I saw that I was placing people in the front row, that maybe didn't have our best interest in mind, or maybe weren't cheering us on or rooting us on, or even aligning to our values and visions as a small little family. And when Chris and I got married, we said we wanted to do it differently. And so we really needed to reconfigure who was in the front row and still find love and compassion for those tough people in our lives that created conflict, but not because they wanted to, just because that's the nature of the relationship. So that's how I came to really teach what I'm teaching now. It was really out of my own pain. My business now was born out of my own pain. So while mind management was my primary, mode of teaching and coaching, back then it's just a very small piece of it now. It gives people a lot of freedom, but the biggest piece is the soul piece, identifying who you are, what matters to you, what is that foundation of rock characterized by? How can we make sense of it? How can we get clear on your triggers, your stories, your obstacles, your fears, your limitations, so that when they come up, you don't lose yourself in them? So that's what I'm up to now. And I work exclusively with moms so that they can find freedom and connection to the purest parts of themselves.
Oh, it's beautiful. So what I'm hearing from you is really helping your clients get clear on their values.
Absolutely.
And it's really interesting because most people like so logical and common sense, but I do think that for a busy mom, especially working moms, we just kind of are like in survival mode, and we're not really putting the values of our family as primary, right? It's just like all the going through the motions instead of being very conscious about what's best, what's in our best interest.
Totally. And it's fascinating because so many people focus on, the things. So they want to have like the lake house one day, or they want to have the family vacation. But that is so future-based thinking that it kicks them out of the now moment. When you're connected to your values, your pure, authentic values. So for example, I'll just share some of mine, but like faith, family, togetherness, nature, fun, spontaneity. These are some of my values. When I'm living in alignment with those essences, the vacations present themselves, right? The lake house will one day come to be, but hustling in the now moment to make that happen kicks me out of the most important focus, which is the relationship in the here and now, even if it's hard, right? Because that's what we're all going to say we missed out on when our kids are out of the home and we're looking back. All of us will look back and say, I wish I had more quality time with those little souls when they were under my roof. And so I am intentional about creating that and just leaning into my values as often as I can remember to.
Right. Yeah. And so really you're speaking to mindfulness, being present, which is certainly a challenge for working moms, but it's really like recognizing when you're at work, that's where your focus is. And when you're at home, your focus is with your family, right? And being really present and available for your children and partner and what that looks like.
100%.
Yeah.
And I'd love to share just an easy tip for the woman who's struggling with that, for the woman who's bringing work home.
Yes.
Or for the woman who's bringing her family life to work.
Okay.
That's super challenging because when you're bringing the conflict of the morning into your day job,
right,
that can be paralyzing because you might be living within the career aspect of your life, thinking about the reaction you just had as you were trying to get your kids out the door and on their way to school. So now you're showing up and you're presenting at an important meeting, but all you can think about is how guilty you feel for your overreaction with your child because you were late getting out of the door. That is messy and that is hard. And it goes the other way too. When you have that big presentation and you don't feel prepared, you bring that home and you're thinking about it all the while making dinner, thinking about work and missing the moments that you want to have more of with your family members. And actually what's fascinating is in these experiences, oftentimes the children will be even more misbehaving because they're not grounded and anchored and connected and present to the real you, because the real you isn't even there. The real you isn't even there. So they're not feeling connected to the foundation when you're off in your mind, not here in the present moment. So the tip that I have for everyone, if you can relate to wanting to be here more often, is the doormat analogy. So I want you to think about every time you cross over into your work environment or into your home environment. And there's some overlap here for those of us who work from home. So I'll give an example here. But every time you cross the mat and into the door of your home, you ask yourself this question: who am I being right now? Who am I being right now? And allow your inner self to reveal to you a couple words to describe who am I being right now? And this is your current state. So who am I being? I'm anxious. I'm overwhelmed. I have no idea what's for dinner. And here we are. It's just about dinner time. Okay, great. I'm aware. This is who I'm being. Is this who I want to be? Well, no, this is not who I want to be. Okay, great. Who am I being now? Make a decision. Who am I going to be? Pick 3 anchor words: open, available, creative, present. Okay, great. Breathe in those words, those essences for a moment and feel them come into your body and make a decision before walking in the door and before crossing that doormat that you will be more like those essences: open, available, creative, present. So what does that mean? Yes, it's true. You don't have a plan for dinner. But as a creative, open, and present woman, maybe you might just bring your kids over to the pantry, even if they're 2, 4, 6, however old, and just say, okay, kids, what would you like to have for dinner? I see some noodles. There's some pesto in the fridge. How about we all cook together and we create a meal? And we just make it super simple, because creating this elaborate meal is not a fit for the you that you are today. So who am I being is the question you ask when you cross that door, Matt. And who do I want to be moving into my home? Get clear on that and, quote, become her. Becoming her is the title of the work that I teach. It's all about becoming that next iteration of ourselves in real time, in the present moment. We are always being and we are always becoming in every moment. Who am I being now and who am I becoming? All of us, every single one of us, have an opportunity to reset, to pause, to start anew, and make a decision. Who am I going to be moving forward? That's what I encourage the busy mother to do. And if you're working from home, getting outside to go for a walk and using nature to support you. So leaning on nature to support you, to anchor into your physical body, to make a decision of who I want to be when I walk into the house and I'm wearing a different hat, I'm becoming a mom. Using nature to tune into the present moment and get back into your body and out of your head is what I do. So what I'll do when I go for a walk is I won't put anything in my ears. Nothing, no music, no podcasts, nothing. And I'll just tune in to the natural sounds of nature. The birds, I can hear the birds. I can feel the wind. I can hear the cars off in the distance. I notice, the hawk. We live in Colorado now, so the hawk flying above me and the bunnies in the grass. These are things that I used to not notice when I was in my anxious state because I was so in my head during that dark night of the soul moment, trying to get it right, trying to figure it out, feeling guilty and shameful and wrong, wanting to know better, wanting to do better because I cared so much about my kids. Cancel. We have to come back into our body and get out of our mind. So if you're working from home, lean on nature, take a moment to ground and reset. If you want to take your shoes off, that always helps to get connected to the earth. But really, I just tune into the natural sounds and then I assume the posture of my choosing when I cross that doormat. Who am I being and who am I becoming? I decide to become her in that moment. I hope this is helpful.
And what about if what you're being is exactly what you want to be being? Does that happen? Or is it?
Absolutely. No, because that's the goal.
Right.
To anchor in a new expression of you.
Yeah.
That's really the goal. If you're proud of who you are, that's amazing. Yeah. Like that is the goal. But the reality is most women and mothers are not always proud of who they are.
It's an interesting word you use there too, pride. Mm-hmm. Like really that it's like a self-love, self-compassion.
Yeah. And it's a healthy, it's a healthy form of pride because I think humility is that come to Jesus moment where your palms up to the sky and you're like, what is going on here? I need to really look in the mirror and take responsibility for how I'm showing up. And then you start to walk that path where you intend to become a little bit different, just a little bit. And what that means is bringing your light forward versus the darkness, that is your feeling in your heart center forward, to bring the light of who you are forward. When you do that, you will get to a place, just like you said, where you can look in the mirror and feel proud of who you are and who you're continuing to become. And really what we're also speaking to is compassion, self-compassion and forgiveness. And at my retreats, I host retreats for mothers and women. And at the final day, we always do a closing ceremony where I ask everyone, I say, who do you need to forgive? Who do you need to forgive? And most often people say, I need to forgive myself. And they burst into tears because it's the first time they really ever realized that they could forgive themselves. And it's an actual form of forgiveness versus forgiveness from the mind. It's a difference of knowing I need to forgive myself and knowing I need to be kinder to myself, to in that moment really releasing and loving that past version of you and continuing to move forward with a lens of compassion toward the self, which then will translate toward the other, right? Because the ability to love thyself is directly correlated to the ability to love others. So the more you come into a loving relationship with yourself, the deeper your relationships will be to your husband and your children and to the other people in your life.
It's so true. And we're modeling that behavior for our children as well.
100%, and I teach, there's a small parenting module in there, and it's all about, in the work that I teach, it's all about modeling the behavior. We think our kids don't know what's actually happening within us, but they do. So for example, if our words don't match our energy, right, they pick up on that.
That's right.
And they're responding more so to our energy and our frequency and who we're being in the space rather than our words. So I find that especially the woman who's really interested in therapy, it can be an incongruent experience where she's sort of learning how to show up differently, but she hasn't quite integrated her energy body toward the new learnings. So what that might look like is she's practicing, and this is sort of like the problem with parenting books or even self-help books in general, is we're trying to think our way toward freedom, but we can't think our way toward freedom. Freedom is an energetic expression. Freedom is self-expression and it's energetic. So we really have to get ourselves and our being to that place of feeling fully free. We cannot think our way toward it. So what that might look like is the mom has this perfect approach to parent differently. So now she's going to do it differently.
Right.
But the problem is she's not being it.
Right.
She's not being the leader. She's trying to get it right. Children sniff this out so quickly. And then moms get upset because their child's not listening to them. And really, it's an incongruence in the mother, who's the leader, in her energy, right? Because she's not being the change that she wants to see in the home. So if her children are misbehaving, a noble step to take is to look in the mirror and actually say, where am I misbehaving? Isn't that wild?
Yes.
And it's silly in a way to look in the mirror and say, where am I misbehaving? Or where am I creating unnecessary chaos in my relationships? Talk about radical responsibility. That is such a profound choice to make, to look in the mirror and say, where am I creating unnecessary chaos? When you clean that up with the people that you care about, you will bring that new energetic expression into your home, and you'll start to see a shift in your children's behavior. It's not always about correcting them. In fact, it's more so about correcting yourself.
Always.
But not from a place of guilt, shame, and blame, right? So if you want more peace in your home, become more peaceful. If you want more patience and tolerance, become more patient and tolerant. If you want your children to follow your direction the first time you say it, you got to do the same, right? How often are you saying we're leaving in 5 minutes, but then you're not out the door in 5 minutes? They don't trust that you're actually leaving in 5 minutes. So they're not going to do the things that they need to do to leave in 5 minutes because you've never shown them that you're actually leaving in 5 minutes. It's always teamwork. The energy of the home is what matters. It's a co-creative experience between mother and child, husband and wife, mother and mother, right? It's always a co-creative experience. And that's what makes life beautiful. Even our trials and tribulations in relationships just point us toward the opportunity to heal, mend, and really understand through a compassionate lens what is living in the other and how can I get connected to them in a loving way. And a lot of times that means putting our swords down and our lens of defensiveness down to really hear the other. And even if we just hear the other, we come more into love with one another. And that can be really hard if you're used to defending yourself. That can be really challenging.
Totally. So this is beautiful. This is really an evolved, conscious motherhood that you're speaking to. And I just want to recognize that I feel like a lot of women have inherited generations of lower consciousness and mothering and femininity. So how do women who have been raised by women who've had different struggles in their life and cultural experiences kind of release those patterns that are multi-generational? If you are in a quest for empowerment and information, I highly encourage you to dive into the world of knowledge and support with Informed Pregnancy Plus, your all-in-one streaming platform dedicated to guiding you through every step of your pregnancy, birth, and postpartum journey. You can stream a growing library of 20 documentaries, including ionic films like Orgasmic Birth and The Business of Being Born, which have revolutionized the way we view childbirth and maternal care. These groundbreaking films, along with our extensive library of films, web series, workouts, make Informed Pregnancy Plus an unparalleled resource. Dr. Elliot Berlin and the team at Informed Pregnancy Plus just announced their newest edition, a vitally important course called the Core Connection, From Anatomy to Action. This exclusive 5-episode series is a must-watch for anyone looking to enhance their pelvic floor and core strength during and after pregnancy. Discover the essentials of pelvic floor health, learn vital postural adjustments, explore muscle releases, and master breathing techniques for a stronger core. This empowering series equips you with the tools to maintain balance in your pelvic floor and core muscles, ensuring optimal functions throughout your pregnancy journey. It's all included with your subscription of less than $7 a month. Ready to transform your pregnancy and parenting experience? Check out informedpregnancy.tv today or download the Informed Pregnancy Plus app on Apple, Android, or Roku. Start your free trial now and join the community of informed and empowered parents.
I am so passionate about this because I really feel like we're living in an interesting time in the world right now. And I strongly believe, like, this is an inner conviction that we are the ones. We are the mothers who are taking care of our next generation, who will one day be our future leaders. And I could cry, even speaking about this, because I feel like we, the mothers, have the opportunity of our lifetimes to support the world toward kindness, toward generosity, toward love, all by the way of demonstrating that in our own homes. And that's all we need to do. But it's hard. It's a hard path right now because there's a lot of division. There's a lot of separation. And when we look microscopically at our own mothers, most of us can see the division and the separation and maybe even the self-hatred and the lack of confidence and the doubt in them. And it gets worse for most of us as we go up the generational lines and we get curious about our grandmothers and their grandmothers, etc. And what's so fascinating is we were an egg in our mother's womb when our mother was in our grandmother's womb. So we've inherited some of these energetic patterns. And the choice is, will I naturally allow myself to become like my mother, or will I choose to do it differently? Now, our innate natural programming is to do it the way that it was done to us. But when I go back to mind management, I really teach from a place of we always have a choice. And the more you can get to know the patterns, the more you can see that you have a choice. And then there's this other piece of it when you see that the pattern's playing out and you stop the pattern from playing out. Now you get to decide, what do I want to create? If I'm not going to do it this way, how do I want to do it? And that's where the sovereignty series kicks in, right? Because that's what it means to really live as a sovereign woman. It means to create with your creator, to create life with the people in it and with source, with God, with the universe, to create with the creator, the life of your choosing. But in order to do that, you have to unwind the generational trauma really in real time, because once you think you've unwound a good portion of it, usually things will come back up later, especially when you're doing something new and different. You'll confront that again. But you get stronger and stronger at seeing the patterns that it gets easier and easier to confront. So it might only be a couple days of really looking at a pattern when you've gotten your reps in. That's what I always say to people. You can't have biceps for summer if you only go to the gym once. You have to keep lifting the weights. And part of lifting the weights means getting really curious about the generational programming. So looking in the mirror and saying, am I doing it the way that I said I wouldn't do it in my family with my kids? And if that's the case, which for a lot of women it is, they come into my program and they say, I've become like my mom. And I said I would never be that. And I look in the mirror and I find that I'm more and more like her every day. And I want to do it differently, Ciara. So how we can unwind with our own mothers is sometimes we have to realize that at this stage and age in time, we are called to, quote, parent up. And what that really means is mothering the mother and really holding her in ways that she was never held. This is so profound. This is so profound because in the process, you are healing as you learn to hold your own mother and her insecurities. And you're strong enough to do this. You are strong enough to do this. And what that really looks like initially is getting really curious about your own mother, especially if you have a difficult relationship with her. Getting really curious, asking high mileage questions and going deep and getting curious about her mother and how she was raised. And in the process, you'll start to see the threads and the patterns, and you'll start to be able to have compassion for your mother because you're now able to see her more clearly. And so that's where we begin, is learning how to hold the mother the mother, and recognizing that she's never going to be the person that you are needing her to be, because unless she chooses, but it's not your job to fix and change your mother.
or anyone
learning
else,
how to, or anyone else,
except yourself.
But learning how to, exactly, because that's the only thing you can control. So really learning how to love your mother exactly as she is with all her shortcomings, and really letting go of this idea that you need to control, fix, or change her is your work. That's your work that you get to do. When I say get to do, it's a different word choice than have to do.
Yeah, it's optional.
It's optional, and it will lead to freedom, and it will lead to an unconditionally loving experience with your mother while you get to be in life together. It will change your life. It might take a little while. Some people experience tremendous change in just 8 weeks and working with me. And then, they go on a journey together, a new experience with their mothers. But for most relationships, I would say you really got to give it a few years to sort of anchor into this new expression of mother and daughter, where you're not trying to change your mom, right? Where you're just learning how to love her and have compassion for her and her journey.
I would say too, that really speaks to like judgment, right? And nobody wants to be judged. Nobody likes how that feels. And even if you're not verbalizing that judgment, it's felt, right? And, but when you can release that judgment and just like you said, love the person, i.e. your mother, for who she is without having any additional expectations, then there's so much, healing that can occur.
Absolutely.
And I would throw mother-in-law
really,
in there as well, by the way.
Oh my gosh. That's a whole topic. I can say I've been in that learning and in that lesson for the last few years. That has been one of my hardest challenges, I would say, because I didn't really realize how much I wanted to please my mother-in-law and how much I admired her, before having kids. And in her presence, I just really felt like I was getting it all wrong. And really that was born out of my own insecurity, right? In this dark night of the soul experience, and really just doing something new, becoming a mother and having a child who really needed me and who was needing to express and use his voice. And that was so uncomfortable for me. Right. But I was always wanting the mother-in-law to just like save the day. And then simultaneously, I was in this relationship of feeling like I was getting it wrong and I couldn't do it right. And, leaning into the natural remedies and cutting out the dyes and all that stuff was like something that she felt was so silly, but something I was so passionate about. Right. And so in her presence, I just felt like I was too much, or I was getting it wrong, or there was something wrong with me, or I was questioning. I was questioning what I knew I needed to do. And I've grown a lot in this area, and we have come into a loving relationship, and the dynamics between her and her son needed to change, and between her and me needed to shift and change. And we are now in a non-codependent relationship with her. And it's neutral and it's loving. And that did take some time to get to, because I actually cared more about what she thought of me than I did of my own mother thinking about me. So, that was part of my struggle in that dark time, was my relationship to my mother-in-law.
Wow. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Like when we don't have that self-love, then we do feel like that, not enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not lovable. And there's this like striving to do better, do more, and it's unnecessary.
100%. And I'll just leave a tip, I'll just share a tip here for anyone who's really walking through this. Right now we're recording this. It's almost Thanksgiving. And, we have Christmas coming up. So there's a lot of opportunity to be around family members, which can be, some of the most triggering people in our lives. And so what I want to say is proceed with caution if you notice yourself in a place of pleasing others, of people pleasing, because you're missing it. You're missing the joy, the togetherness, the family, the connection, the adventure, all of the values I listed earlier. You're missing it. You're missing out on slow, grounded joy when you're focusing on looking good, pleasing others, getting it right, and being perfect. Cancel. So what I like to do now is, right? Is there anything you want to say there before I continue?
Yeah, it's exhausting to try to be perfect. I gave up on that a long time ago. Doesn't work.
No, so embracing our perfectly imperfect selves is the path. And remembering that even if, let's just say, the mother-in-law shows up with the perfect gifts, in the perfect outfit, and has her recipes that she has to make on these holidays because it's tradition, right? So even if she shows up like that, we can let her. We can let her because that's important to her. And while it's not important to me, I can really own that. And that's the hardest part of being able to say something like, I see that this is really important to you. And I'm happy to have these recipes at my dinner table this year. Right. But rather than saying, I'll make them for you and with you, because that's actually not something that feels right to me. I don't like those family recipes with all of the ingredients that I don't really like eating anyway. I don't like that. So owning that is the hardest part, and saying something like, I'd really like to make these recipes, so I'll focus on these, and please let me know if there's anything I can do to support you in getting, the ingredients to make the ones you would like to make. But here's what I'll be making for this Thanksgiving and for this holiday. So the shift there is really owning your voice. And owning your voice looks like, I like that. I don't like that. I want that. I don't want that. This can be really hard for the people pleaser because they are so focused on making other people happy that they don't even really know what they like and what they don't like. I can't even tell you, Laura, how many people come into their work with me and I ask them a question. What is your favorite flower? And they can't answer it. They take a while, they pause, and they realize that it's been a while since they've even asked themselves that question. What is my favorite flower? And if I were to say why, they can't even really tell me because they're focused on the flower that looks good in their home, right? Or they're not getting flowers at all for themselves. And they lost sight of their favorite color, their favorite flower, the things that make them unique as a human, because they've been so focused on the other that they have forgotten about themselves. Here's another good example. My Instagram handle is Ciara Burton. There was a time when I had no pictures of me on there. And when I realized this was me coming out of my dark night of the soul moment, I created a post with just a picture of me. And I remember feeling so uncomfortable about it, of posting a picture of me on an Instagram page that was in my name. Isn't that funny?
Yes.
That my Instagram page became all about two little boys, Reese and Theo, and our dog Lottie Moon.
Oh, your children's pictures were on there.
My children's pictures were on there. Yeah. And there were none of me. And so there was this moment of really reclaiming my own identity and saying, like, I am Ciara. Like, I am an individual before I'm a mom. A mom is one of the many roles that I play. I am a mom, a wife, a friend, a daughter, a business owner. And so I posted this picture of just my face. And I remember being totally nervous about it. And I said, hi, I'm Ciara. Nice to meet you. And I've forgotten, that I am an individual. And I've forgotten, that I'm actually here as a soul to learn and grow, just like these little beings that I'm the caretaker of. And I want to nurture Ciara. I want to nurture the me that I know I am, because she will be the shepherd for my children. And so I don't want to raise them from a place of not being confident, or from a place of not knowing how to use my voice, or from a place of putting their needs before my own, because I don't want them to grow up as adults by putting other people's needs above their own. And that is people pleasing. And that was so strong in our patterning, my husband and I. And we had to do a lot of work to unwind that, because we were always so concerned about the other that we were forgetting about ourselves. And then there were two weak people trying to do marriage together. Right.
And it's interesting too, because I know you mentioned before we started recording, you have two sons. I have one son. And I'm also wondering if there's some gender differences regarding people pleasing with women versus men.
I really don't think so. I mean, I'm sure there are in theory if we were to do the research around it, but I really don't think so. I mean, I have seen it's a generational pattern. I mean, I have seen it show up in the generational lines within my families, both sides, and then on my husband's families, both sides. And it's not that everyone's doing it, but I can see the threads. And it was more common back then, right? To like, let's just say like the perfect nuclear family. You welcome people into your home and it's perfect and it's clean and it's tidy and you're serving them, you're serving your guests. And things have changed now. where when I'm welcoming people into my home, there are certain things that matter to me. I like my home to feel like a sanctuary. That's when I feel most proud of my home, when it feels like a sanctuary. And what I do is exactly what I mentioned earlier, is I ask myself, how do I want it to feel when people walk into my home? Well, I want it to feel fun. I want them to feel alive. I want to feel connected. I want to feel like every piece of food is like a devotion of love to my guests. And what does that look like from a doing perspective? Well, I know that it's not going to feel fun and it's not going to feel connected if I burn myself out in the kitchen making all of these perfect recipes and have the table look perfectly. So I cancel to that, and I just pick a few things that I know would really make like the energy and the vibe what I want it to be. So everything from music to, the scent or the candle or the essential oils that I have. And then from a food perspective, I make it easy. I have my husband usually put a meat on the smoker, and then I get fresh. I like to outsource, so I'm not doing it all myself, but I'll get fresh, rolls from the bakery. And so that's just a stop after drop off real quick. And then I arrange like charcuterie on a piece of paper that I lay all the way across the kitchen island, and I just make it like art. And what is that doing? It's literally fulfilling a creative need within me. And as I'm creating it, it's not about having the charcuterie spread done. It's about infusing the whole table with love and with my energy and devotion while I'm making it. And what's amazing about that is by the time the guests arrive, this last time when we were entertaining, I had another salad I wanted to make. And I asked myself, how important is this salad to you, Ciara? Because it's going to kick you out of the vibe of what you want to have in your home when your back is turned to your guests and you're hustling to get this salad together, right? That's not aligned with who I want to be in my own home. So what I said to myself is very quickly, scrap the salad. What we have is enough. And what's so amazing about that, and this continues to happen because I've been living like this for, a few years now. What's so fun is my husband and I will get text messages after we host, and people will say the exact words that mirror the intention that I set. That was so lovely, being in your home. It felt so warm and fun and friendly. We could have stayed there all night. Thank you so much for hosting. And so I find that almost as the best compliment, that they're commenting more on not the food, but they're commenting on the feelings that they felt in our space and they wanted to stay. So that's a little shift there to really like own your space, own your voice, own your, I want this, I don't want this, I like this, I don't like this, and let the people around you, the perfectly imperfect people around you, have their say too. But you don't have to take it on as your own if it's not for you. Like, you don't need to make great grandma's recipe if that's not even something that excites you at all. But if your mother-in-law wants to make it, let her. She can move forward on that. And if it's important to her that you help her, she can make that request. But that's not something you need to immediately do just to please the mother-in-law. Really get clear on your intentions. And how you get clear on that is you need to observe yourself in your life and really check in and say, like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Like, who am I being in this moment? Who am I being? Oh, I'm here. I'm pleasing. I'm here to please everyone, to have it look good, to have it be perfect. And if you notice that that's who you're being in the space, cancel, and reset and go back to that question. Who do I want to be in this space? And it really just takes a couple deep breaths to assume a new posture. Creative, fun, together, home, present. Assume a new posture. This reset moment is so important. And most of us mothers don't even realize we can do that. It's an adult timeout, the way I teach it.
Yes, it is. And it can be done whenever we need it. So
at any point, yes.
For women listening,
you just go lock yourself in the bathroom, right? And you just take a moment. So who needs a timeout? You or your kids? Most of the time, it's us.
And nobody bothers you in the bathroom, hopefully, if the door's locked, at least.
If the door is locked. Yes.
So if women are listening to this and want to work with you or learn more about your retreats, how do they find you and have this opportunity?
Thank you. I appreciate you mentioning that. So ciaraburton.com, ciaraburton.com. But you can also go to the lifecoachformoms.com. And then Instagram is Ciara M. Burton, CIARAMBURTON. And you can shoot me a message. I always offer for the woman who's really wanting to understand the root of her inner conflict. I do offer a complimentary session. We get on the phone for 30 minutes and you will leave with crystal clarity on the energetic theme that you are called to move into that's actually creating conflict in your life. So I can identify that within 15 to 30 minutes. And if that experience feels fruitful and feels enlivening, then you'll have an opportunity, if it's the right fit, to join me in Becoming Her, which is my 8-week program where we work together one-on-one, but you also get to meet the other women I'm working with behind the scenes. And in your hearing them speak, it ignites something in you. So it ends up becoming like a sisterhood. But the whole focus in your relationship with me is to get you results. And all I need you to do is show up. And what I tell my people is all you got to do is put your body in the room. Right? Because every time we put our body in a new and different room, we are voting for the us that we are becoming, for the me that I am becoming. Every time we put our body in a different room, in an uplifting conversation that's new and different, we are voting for the person that we are becoming. And that is where the modern mother is called to grow. She's called to grow toward the woman that she knows she is being groomed to become. And how do you know? Well, when life shows you all the things that are not working, that means it's time to look in the mirror and say, how am I called to learn and grow here? And that's where we begin. Personal responsibility is where we begin.
Beautiful. Ciara, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate your passion for this topic. And I feel like it was very empowering for the women listening and inspirational that change is possible and it starts within us.
100%. It's such a joy to connect with you, and hopefully we'll have more conversations in the future. This is really important what we're talking about.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I feel like there was a lot of great juicy tips shared for all moms out there who may be feeling overwhelm, guilt, and anxiety regarding trying to manage their family, their professional life, their personal life, everything that goes on with being moms, especially working moms. So I know for me, the mind management component and matters of the soul and how it's all connected was such a good, valuable reminder about how to essentially just when we're in that present moment, we're able to make decisions and have clarity about what our next steps are with so much more ease and grace. And it feels a lot more effortless as opposed to effortful. So if you want to find out more and with this amazing life coach for moms and you want to work with her and check out her program, just go to her website, Ciara Burton at CIARABURTON.com.